recording are an expletive, as 67 souls died in an instant. In your judgment, if ADS-B in had been installed and on in those two airplanes, would that accident have been avoided?
Okay, you just saw that clip. If that didn't send chills down your spine, I don't know what will. 67 people. Gone in an instant. And the most gut-wrenching part? It was preventable. Now, I've watched a lot of congressional hearings. Most of them are pure theater, grandstanding. Nothing gets done. But what you just saw is different. Ted Cruz is walking through, second by second, exactly how 67 people died, and exactly what technology could have saved them. And here's the thing. This isn't a Democrat issue or a Republican issue. The Rotor Act passed the Senate 100-0. You cannot get 100 senators to agree on anything, but they agreed on this. That tells you everything. So before we watch the rest, I want you to pay attention. Because Ted Cruz is about to lay out one of the clearest cases for aviation safety reform you'll ever hear from a sitting senator. And by the end, you'll understand exactly why the House's version of this bill just doesn't cut it. Stay with me. Let's watch the full thing.
Mr. Chapman, let's start with you. Yesterday, the Aviation Subcommittee held a hearing on near misses. It discussed existing technologies that improve safety both in the sky and on the runway. Captain Jason Ambrosi, the president of the Airline Pilots Association, noted that ADS-B has long been recommended by the NTSB, is a proven technology in use, and has the benefit of significantly quicker adoption to save lives. In your judgment, would equipping aircraft with ADS-B improve situational awareness in the cockpit, and would it improve safety overall?
That is absolutely my belief, Mr. Chairman.
The NTSB has recommended users of the National Airspace System be equipped with ADS-B where ADS-B out is already required. Why is it critical for all users of the airspace, including the military, to operate with ADS-B
It's essential that all the aircraft operating in particular airspace be seen and also be able to see each other. And that is the reason that element of the recommendation is so important, that all aircraft operating in that aircraft should be equipped.
Now, I know you've seen the video recreation of the crash over DCA that is overlaid with the communication with the cockpit. I played that video for members of this committee. Unfortunately, we could not play the audio publicly because of existing laws that prohibit the release of cockpit communications. That being said, I found it one of the most chilling things I've ever seen. In the video, you can clearly see that the American Airlines pilot cannot see the Black Hawk helicopter, and the Black Hawk helicopter cannot see the American Airlines jet. The video demonstrated had ADS-B been installed, the American Airlines pilot would have seen the Black Hawk helicopter roughly a minute before the collision and would very easily have avoided the helicopter in that circumstance. Likewise, the helicopter pilot would have seen the jet almost a minute before the collision and again could have easily avoided the collision. Instead, as the simulation plays forward, it is apparent that the Black Hawk helicopter pilots never see the plane. They simply strike into it, explode, and die, and they have no idea what they just hit. The American Airlines pilot does see the helicopter about a second and a half before impact. Pulls back on the stick rapidly, the plane jerks up, but a second and a half is not time to avoid the accident. The last words on the cockpit recording are an expletive, as 67 souls died in an instant. In your judgment, if ADS-B had been installed and on in those two airplanes, would that accident have been avoided?
Senator, I do want to note to start that I was required to recuse myself from that investigation because of an arrangement much earlier in my career involving American Airlines and my continuing flight privileges. Having said that, I followed the investigation very closely. I'm well aware of what you just described, and I believe ADS-B would have made a huge difference. By the way, I commend you and I commend the members of the committee for your work in advancing this. I believe that is the centerpiece of the recommendations that were made as a result of our investigation.
I fully agree. The Senate has passed the Rotor Act bipartisan legislation 100-0. The House, 2/3 of the House has voted for it, a bipartisan vote. It failed by a single vote because 26 House members were absent the day of the vote. We're going to get the Rotor Act passed, and I would note the House's Alert Act deliberately avoids requiring ADSB in. It deliberately avoids what you rightly described as the centerpiece of the NTSB's recommendations. The House's Alert Act would not have prevented the accident over DCA. We will get the Rotor Act signed into law. Let me turn to another topic, Mr. Chapman. Autonomous vehicles have the potential to dramatically improve road safety. However, the federal government lacks regulations that specifically address AVs, leaving states and local governments to manage what should be a national policy. Do you believe we need a national policy to regulate AVs?
I certainly do, and we are seeing benefits from autonomous vehicles. I believe we will see more. And automation generally in our automobiles has done a lot to help improve safety. But there are some significant issues, and we do not have a framework at this point for ensuring that the challenges of deploying these vehicles are properly managed and monitored. So I think it's very important that we have a federal policy in that regard.
Thank you.
All right. Now you've seen all of it. Let's talk about what Ted Cruz actually did in that hearing. First, the video recreation of the DCA crash. That was not a political stunt. That was a senator doing his homework. He didn't just skim a report. He watched the simulation, understood it, and described it in real time. The American Airlines pilot pulling back on the stick a second and a half too late. The Black Hawk crew never even knowing what hit them. That level of detail shows you a senator who actually cares about the outcome, not just the headline. And then the NTSB chair, who had to recuse himself from the investigation by the way, comes out and says clearly, he believes ADSB in would have made a huge difference. That is not a political opinion. That is the nation's top transportation safety expert agreeing on the record that this technology saves lives. Here's the part that genuinely frustrates me, though. The Rotor Act, bipartisan, 100-0 in the Senate, 2/3 of the House behind it, failed by a single vote because 26 members didn't show up. Because of that, we're still arguing about whether to mandate technology that already exists, already works, and would have saved 67 lives on that river. And then the House's Alert Act deliberately leaves out ADSB in. The one thing the NTSB called the centerpiece of their recommendations. They saw the findings, they saw the word centerpiece, and they wrote a bill that goes around it. That is a choice. I know some people will say Ted Cruz is making this political. I'd flip that. Why are 26 absent House members making lives political? Cruz brought a simulation, the NTSB chair, and a clear timeline. No screaming, no spin, just facts and consequences. His point on autonomous vehicles is worth noting too. We are in a moment where technology is moving faster than federal policy, whether that's above Washington, D.C. or on roads in your city. Someone has to say we need a national framework before more people get hurt. Look directly at camera. Here's where I land. Agree with him politically or not on aviation safety and the Rotor Act, he is right. The data is right. The NTSB is right. And 67 families already paid the price for inaction. The Rotor Act needs to pass. That's it. If you got something out of this, hit like and subscribe because we cover the moments in politics that actually matter. And drop a comment. Do you think the Rotor Act finally gets passed, or does it stall again? See you in the next one.